Prepare yourself.
For an entertaining and somewhat informative hour of
MMA Radio, brought to you by Timbo Slice.
And the Joe Show.
What's up, man?
What's up, man? What's going down?
Beautiful day outside.
Man, it's really nice, and the office is closing early today. Get off at 2:30, so I'm pretty excited about that. Go home and chill out, maybe get out some motorcycles, maybe fire up the grill. Probably come to your house and use your grill, use your food, drink your beer, just like last weekend.
Perfect.
So, man, what'd you think about last weekend's card?
Some of it was very good. Some of it, you're going into it, and I have to say that I believe both you and Ocho were picking fights left and right, how it went down. I mean, I didn't think the main event was entertaining. Wanted to see more out of it. I think you kind of called it. It didn't seem like DC was really that much into the fight. Like you said, he's on the last fight, getting ready to check out. He's thinking about sitting on the side of the cage calling fights.
Yeah, thinking about not getting injured. And then, we had the prelims, which was Marlon Vera versus Sugar Sean O'Malley. And then we had Junior Dos Santos versus Rosenstrike. Dude, so let's start with that Rosenstrike Dos Santos. As much as I like Junior Dos Santos, I'm a big fan and think that he is actually a really good boxer and kickboxer in the MMA world, but he is getting up there in the twilight of his career, if you want to call it that. He's fought the who's who. He's very experienced, but I don't think his chin holds up like it used to.
And I agree with you there, Joe. I mean, I think that is the thing of, now I wouldn't call it punch drunk, but just as you age, you've been hit that many times. It's harder to take a blow and like you used to and just keep throwing back.
Well, your brain shuts. Once you've been knocked out a few times, your brain shuts off easier. You get knocked out easier. And he's getting. I don't know how old he is, but he's got to be in his late 30s at least, maybe almost 40. And Rosenstrike came in, man. He was very calm and composed. Picked his shots and eventually got the finish.
And they both were very cautious of each other and cautious of the strength and the power that each one of them had of really kind of feeling each other out, keeping the distance. I mean, they were both landing some good shots here and there. But Rosenstrike came in and nailed him right at the end of the end of the first round, I believe, and just or second round, and really took over the fight with a couple of those punches, and he had no answer to it.
He did. And, I was pulling for, Junior Dos Santos, but in my mind, these new young guys that are coming out, and Rosenstrike's not that young of a guy. He's got a pretty decorated, I believe, kickboxing career. And, man, he did the job. He got past the gatekeeper, and Dos Santos, he's kind of the gatekeeper of that. Guys like him and Alistair Overeem, man, they kind of the gatekeepers right up there. It was heavyweight, right? Or light heavyweight? It was heavyweight.
Heavyweight.
Yeah, so those old school guys are kind of the gatekeepers. If you can get past those guys, you're on your way. Because Dos Santos, he can come back next week and knock somebody out. Oh, it could have went either way. He could have landed that right shot and knocked Rosenstrike out. But, good job, Rosenstrike and
a more exciting fight in the main event, and we're looking at both heavyweights on both of those fights. So I really enjoyed. That was one of the fights that stood out to me. That was a good fight on the card.
Yeah, and then when it comes to Marlon Vera and Sugar Sean O'Malley, he didn't have much sugar that night, man. He didn't. I don't know. He came out and he was striking well. He was working the outside and kind of picking Vera apart a little bit, kind of like he does. But the minute Sean O'Malley had a little adversity, he kind of folded under the pressure. I think he rolled his ankle or twisted his foot, and after that, man, he was not. He couldn't continue fighting. He got knocked down or taken down. I can't even remember, and took 1 or 2 shots, man, on the ground, and I don't know if he verbally tapped or the ref just stopped the fight or what happened. But
he took some decent shots once he got him down on the mat. I mean, I think there's a couple elbows and a couple blows. So, if the ref didn't already see him limping around, would he have stopped it that quick? And it's hard to say because it was close on that. I mean, a lot of people say, yeah, it was a good stoppage. Other people, yeah, couple more, give him another 5-10 seconds to see what he could have done to got out of that if he hadn't already been rolling around on his ankle like that.
He looked like he was done by the time he got on the ground, took a few shots. He had checked out, is what it looked like to me. So, Sugar Sean O'Malley's going to have to dig deep on this next fight and heal these injuries and show the fans that he can overcome some adversity and I don't know what he hurt. He rolled his ankle or his foot, but that's part of kickboxing, man. That's part of MMA. I mean, how many times has John Jones or any of these top level guys have a broken limb, a broken arm, cracked ribs, broken jaws, or busted nose, and man, they still fight the distance of the fight, and sometimes they win.
Yes. So was that him going, okay, I just can't, I know I can't move like I wanted to, I'm hurt already. So he already, his mind and this part of his fight game, his mind was already shutting down going, I just want out of here. I mean,
could have been.
It's his movement that he couldn't do once he rolled his ankle. And it was interesting to see him do that. Like, how did he just stumbled, it seemed like. Maybe he heard it when he was throwing kicks earlier, but he didn't have that movement anymore. So he was pretty much, that's a big part of his game is jumping stanches and that movement all over the cage. So he just lost that ability to do that. So he shut it down maybe. But the big thing that I got out of that is after that fight, comparing the end of that fight to the end of the Rozenstruik Dos Santos fight, those two sat down on the edge of the mat, leaning against the cage after the fight, sitting there talking about it. The other two are now just taking verbal shots back and forth. And O'Malley lost. However be it that he lost. He lost. He should be a little more, in my opinion, a little more humble in his defeat. I think he'll learn a lot more from it that way.
Which one? Are you still talking about Sean O'Malley?
Yes. Yep, with O'Malley. I mean, he's just been throwing stuff out there on social media and everything of not giving props. Does he really need to give props? Not, but he doesn't need to beat him down and say, yeah, he couldn't do this. He's just a journeyman. I'm gonna be the champion.
Yeah, not fighting like that, and not I don't know how bad the injury was. I haven't seen any reports that anything was broken or torn but even I fighting in local kickboxing stuff when I was younger, I've done that. I've jammed my foot into the mat and rolled my ankle and broke my toes, and man, I still stayed into the fight and I limped around the whole time, but it's not the same level. So who knows? We'll see. The next person who fights, O'Malley is going to start attacking those legs and trying to hurt him. We haven't seen his chin tested, and that kick he threw, it probably got checked and and maybe hurt his toe or got kicked in the leg, and that's part of MMA, man. You got to be able to take those shots, absorb the damage, and continue on. I'm still a Sugar Sean fan. He's exciting, dynamic, but it was a little weird to me as a fan on how he went out. So kind of quickly. He took 1 or 2 shots on the ground, a good hard right, and maybe an elbow, and seems like the ref just jumped in and saved him. You know what I mean?
Yep, I get that. So yeah, that's his first loss on his professional record. So he's learning to deal with his first loss and that adversity. So you're right, it will change him. He will come out a different fighter for his next fight. Really working harder at that, going, okay, it's time to get back in there and get on that horse and prove myself again, but I'm working my way to the top.
Well, until that moment, he was winning the fight. he definitely had the advantage, and Vera. It seems like Sean O'Malley's opponents, once he starts landing those outside shots and throwing those long kicks, they freeze up a little, and Sean O'Malley ends up taking over the pace of the fight. So that was going on, and then all of a sudden, he looked like he had shot in or rolled in, because I watched the replay. I watched it a couple of times, and looks like he just stepped wrong. But was it after a leg kick? Was it checked? Did it foot her? Did he just jam his toe? But I mean, he limped out of there. So yeah, we'll see. We'll see how he does next time. He'll have to come back and hopefully prove himself, and fight another top-notch guy, another competitor. If I'm Vera, I'm not giving him a rematch. You know what I mean? Yeah. I'm gonna take the money and run and move up the ranks is what I'm gonna do.
That's true, and that's what he should do. I mean, he's got the victory, so he doesn't need to run that one back. But a lot of people might want to run it back, since it was the way. Did it end on injury? Kind of. He still took some blows, but so a lot of people want to see that, maybe run backs and see who can really dominate a little more. But
yeah, and we don't know the extent of the injury, but after that, ankle roll or toe jam or whatever he did, his head was completely out of the game. It wasn't the same guy in there. And for me, you got to be mentally tougher than that. I mean, there's a lot of guys in there that get broken this, broken that. Ryan Benoit had broken his hands in every fight. He's broken his orbital in the middle of the fight. He's had broken nose, man, and he still finishes the fight and goes the distance. He's broken feet, broken toes. So we'll see. That could be, his biggest adversity is the mental toughness of when he does get injured. And so we'll see. I'm still a fan. He's exciting, but let's see how he does on the next one. Because the next guy is going to come in blasting those legs.
and he's learned, like I said, he's learned with this of being at his first loss. I mean, Ben Askren even kind of was calling him out, so he's gonna get a lot more call outs of how the fight ended, what he did. I mean, Ben was like, I would never be taken out of there on a stretcher unless I was unconscious, because so almost like what you're saying, he had mentally checked out with it. Like, I would still put a teammate under. He's like, I'd put a teammate under each arm and kind of hobble out of there, but I wouldn't go out on a stretcher. So as he's taking heat from current and ex-fighters, it's going to challenge him even more.
And you think the stretcher was to show like, oh no, I'm really hurt. That's why. Like, was he using that stretcher as like a little scapegoat? Like, oh, I'm seriously injured. I had to have a stretcher. That's how bad it was. Is that what he was trying to say or trying to do? I don't know.
I don't know. I know X-rays came back negative. They were going to wait a bit and do an MRI to see if anything was torn. So we'll wait and see on that one.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm looking forward to this next one. We'll see. Want to see him come back and be dominant, Sean O'Malley. Who's the top dog in 135 right now? Who's the top 5 guys?
Might take me a minute to get there, but I was going to say O'Malley's injury is going to heal up probably quicker than a torn cornea.
Oh man,
that was kind of brutal there. To look at that.
So and let's get on that, man, because when that happened and they showed the replay, Stipe's finger went like 4 inches deep into his eye hole. And immediately Cormier complains to the ref. The ref's like, no, you just got punched. Never did the ref look up and check the replay camera. And I believe, man, it was a weird situation because you get a serious eye poke in a championship fight. You look over at Daniel Cormier. His eyeball is facing the wrong direction. His eye's swollen. It's cloudy. He looks like he can't even, like his eyeball is not even connected to his body anymore in his head. Like it wasn't even moving properly. He tells his corner, he tells his ref, I can't see anything. All I see is black. Not once does the doctor come in and check this guy. Not one time. That was weird to me. Yes. The ref never said anything about it. The doctor never came in. How many times have you seen an eye poke in the UFC? Every fucking time The doctor comes in, even if it's a little eye poke, a little pinky. The doctor comes in and checks. They do the eye check. They didn't do that for Cormier. So if that would have happened, the fight is stopped.
And especially if he would have seen it as an eye poke to begin with. He saw the ref saw it as a punch, so it just kept going. But I understand what you're saying is in between rounds, the ref did have a chance to see the replay. He realized he missed the eye poke. The doctor could have looked at it at that point, but that wouldn't have been.
What was that, round 3?
End his career.
That was like what, round 3 or something? Round 4? I mean, he still had to come out, and I mean, you never know.
He came out and did good in round 4.
Yeah, and you never know, man. If he'd have had that eyeball working, he might have won that fight if he'd have got the takedowns. But I don't know. Stipe did really. I'm not taking anything away from Stipe. He did his job. He boxed Cormier up. He got the underhooks when he should have. Avoided the takedown. Not one, and where was Cormier's wrestling? He's an Olympic level, 2-time Olympian. Went for one takedown the whole fight. Got him down for a brief second. Stipe gets back up. He abandons the takedowns. Tries to box with this much bigger, much longer, real heavyweight, and he's trying to box him the whole night. And I don't know why that was. If he was really trying to win that belt, I think he'd have figured out a way how to get Stipe on the ground and gym terms, wrestle fucked him the whole 5 rounds. And he could have came out with a belt. We've heard that term. Using it.
And you're right. As we watched it, we were like, why isn't he taking him down? Why isn't he shooting again? I mean, and I understand you got to find it. You got to make those openings happen so you can get those takedowns. But as you say, Olympian wrestler, he should be able to, you think, find some more of those opportunities to get him at least attempt to get a takedown.
He never engaged in the clinch, and when he was in the clinch, Stipe had him pressed against the cage with the underhooks, standing tall. That taller fighter is vertical, upright with his underhooks on Cormier. Cormier couldn't move. He was kind of holding Cormier up in the air, and he was doing the old Kamaru Usman foot stomp, shoulder jab, foot stomp, shoulder jab, body shot, until Cormier kind of spun out, and he'd let him spin out, and then he would box him up again. Stipe did a good job. Definitely the most decorated, winningest heavyweight champion in the UFC history. So big props to him, man. And Stipe could hold on to that belt for the next couple of years.
But there's some big boys too that want to come up after him and are going to want to try and get a piece of that.
But
with all of those heavyweights,
he's beat those big boys, though. I mean, he beat up Francis Ngannou. It doesn't get much bigger boy than that. Is a guy like Rosenstrike. Have they fought? Has Stipe and Rosenstrike fought? I don't know, but that's a matchup I'd like to see. There's some big guys out there, but I think Stipe is going to hold that belt at least. He's going to defend it one or two more times before he gets so much road damage that he loses that belt or he loses the will to carry the belt. Or if John Jones' retirement, he comes back out as a heavyweight, that'd be the fight I'd want to see.
And that's the rumors that I keep hearing is he didn't retire. He just gave up the belt, and he wants to move up to heavyweight. And other people are not going. Yeah, he wants to move up to heavyweight because they're a lot slower. That he can't keep up with the light heavyweights anymore. He's aging himself out of there. He's getting slower, so he needs to move up to the heavyweight. Maybe put on a few pounds, but he doesn't need to be that 250 range. But even he could probably go in and fight at his walk around weight.
Well, Stipe came in, 233?
Yes.
So, face-to-face, what was Stipe, 6'3", 6'4"? John Jones, 6'3", 6'4"? Walk around weight, I'm sure it's in the 230s, 250s, right?
Yeah.
See, I think John Jones, a good move for him, start hitting the weights, put on 10 more pounds of muscle, then go fight those heavyweights. John Jones is not a knockout power guy. He's a distance guy. He takes you 5 rounds. He just beats you up and he wins the decision. He hadn't finished the guy. The last guy he finished was Cormier. And I can't think of anybody he's finished, in the last couple of years. Can you?
Let me think. No, not the current time. I can't think of anybody.
John Jones. Luckily, I have a computer in front of me. So John Jones' record. Man, so he didn't finish Gustafsson. Did he finish Chael Sonnen? He might have finished Chael Sonnen, but that was a long time ago. That was in 2013. Vitor Belfort, I'm sure he finished, but what I'm saying is he didn't finish anybody in a while, unless it was Daniel Cormier. And arguably the last fight with the one when we're in Vegas. Well, I was in Vegas. What was the Santos? Was it Thiago Santos? Yeah. He fought, no, it wasn't Thiago Santos. February, Reyes. Dominic Reyes. Man, a lot of people think Reyes won that fight.
That's very true. A lot of debate about that.
Even looking at the points, the points, they had Dominic Reyes 116 over 104. I think that's what this is saying. So, I don't know. Does John Jones want to fight anymore? He's not defending the belt. I mean, it's the same conversation. I mean, he won that championship. He was a young man. He's had all this pressure. He's had his ups and downs in his personal life. He's getting DWIs. He's out partying. He's failing drug tests. It's like you want to get the guy and set him down and have a talk with him. Like, bro, you could go.
I'm sure people have. I'm sure they have. I'm sure he's got people in his corner trying to tell him what to.
The last thing we heard of John Jones was him getting another DUI. Yeah, I guess he was in Albuquerque. He's alone at whatever, midnight, 3 a.m, driving drunk, parked in the middle of the road, kind of sad. You go back and watch that YouTube video of him being arrested. Man, it was sad. It was sad to see. He looked like a lonely, scared guy that was just alone. And where are his people? Where's his family? Where's his handler? Where's his coaches? Or are they just letting this guy run around with no supervision? He almost needs a handler. And you would think, he'd been busted a few times. Like, someone get a handle on that, but I guess not, man. And maybe it's easier said than done, but it reminds me of a young Mike Tyson after Mike Tyson lost his championship. He's in trouble all the time and always in the news and, stuff like that.
I think, unfortunately, there's a number of fighters that fall into that same category. So, and I think it'd be wise of the UFC to find some sort of program, something to help these guys along and coach them in life a little bit more than just being a fighter and being that gladiator for them.
Yeah, I mean, it's different. Those, being a fighter is a different mentality. I mean, these guys are pit bulls. Some of them don't do good in social environments. That's why they're fighters.
That's very true. But I think we're seeing a lot of that change. So, like on Tuesday night, did you watch Dana White's Contender Series?
I haven't watched any of those yet.
So, I mean, you had 2 brothers that have been working their way up. They seem a little more not like they're coming out of the back alleys and backyard fights these and then getting into the UFC. These guys are now been doing something in some sort of martial arts and training in the gym, working their way up. So I think you're seeing a different caliber of fighters coming in, that they're not just those street thugs. And that same with like those 2 brothers. And then you had Cheyenne Bides that fighting out of Fortis. She came in and put on a very dominant victory as well. So it was good to see her out there. She was entertained with it. At one point she wanted her opponent up off the mat. So she yelled at her to get the fuck up. And the ref kind of said something to her, and she kind of almost apologized. But at the end of the night, whenever they lined up all the fighters, Dana's going through all the fights and talking about each one. He gets to Cheyenne and he's talking about her fight and he wants to give her the contract. And he tells her, Cheyenne, get the fuck over here so you can get a contract.
That's funny. Man,
So
love Dana White.
It was pretty cool how he played that back into it.
Yeah, that is cool. He's good at getting on their level. He can talk the talk, he can walk the walk, he can talk on their level or talk above their level. Big fan of Dana White. So no, I need to go back and watch. I have all those Contender Series recorded. I just hadn't had time to watch them. But I need to go back and see some up and coming guys. I'm looking at John Jones's record now. Getting back to him going up to heavyweight, man. I don't know how good he'll do. If you fight Francis Ngannou, are you going to be able to avoid Francis Ngannou for 5 rounds without getting knocked out? If you're John Jones, John Jones is not going to knock out Francis Ngannou. John Jones has got 1 or 2 KOs in his whole career. He's got a TKO over Shogun Rua. He's got a KO over Brandon Vera, with elbows, but that was in 2010. I mean, then you go back up to he's got some submissions over Machida, submission over Rampage Jackson. You're not submitting, you're not going to submit some of these big guys that are, you're not going to submit Derek the Black Beast Lewis. Are you John Jones going to fight Derek the Black Beast Lewis? What does that matchup look like? Well, to me, it looks like the Black Beast is going to grab you and beat the shit out of John Jones. I just don't know if he's going to be big enough and powerful enough. It depends on if he picks up knockout power on his way up to heavyweight. If he really, because he's a distance counter fighter, kind of stick and move kind of guy. Unless he gets you hard, he'll choke you out. But he doesn't have a lot of knockouts, man.
Yep, and you're right. You look down through the top 10 there. With Stipe on it, you got Francis Ngannou, Curtis Blade, Rosenstruck, Overeem.
Oh man, can you imagine?
And Derek Lewis. I mean, those are guys that I don't think he can go in and has the power to knock them out.
He's not going to take down Derek Lewis. You know what I mean? You're not going to take down Derek Lewis and get him in a rear naked choke. Derek Lewis has proved that already. So I don't know if, heavyweight, it will be a good move for him. If they're smart, well, I don't know what, because John Jones immediately, if he goes to heavyweight, immediately is he going to have to fight a top 10 guy, right? Because if he fights anybody out of that top 10 guy and loses to someone not in the top 10, his value is gone.
And I don't think he'll settle for just anybody. He's going to want to move up and say, He's going to want to fight. I need a top 10 dude.
Yeah, he's going to want. Yeah, he's going to want to fight a top 5 guy. Because if you lose to a top 5 guy, you still have your value at least. Depends on what it looks like, right? And we were talking about this. Correa was at your house. Mr. IoT Day this weekend. We were talking about this in boxing with Errol Spence Jr. Fighting. What's the guy's name? Mikey Garcia. Was that who he's fighting? Well, they were saying, why didn't Errol Spence, after his big car wreck in Dallas, get a tune-up fight? Someone not as dangerous and popular now. Well, because you can't afford to do that. Because you come in and lose that tune-up fight, then you're never fighting in the top, the top guys.
Yeah, you get knocked. So you're saying that's the same with Jones. He needs to fight a top 10 dude. Otherwise, if he loses, he's done. He's gone.
There'll be nobody will care to fight him, and he'll lose his value. If you go in and fight, you fight somebody who's like a 15th, 15th ranked guy, and he get knocked out or submitted. I mean, like no other heavyweight's going to give you a chance. They're like, you're not even in the standings, bro, unless Uncle Dana, jumps in and is like, no, John Jones is fighting for the title. And
you never know what he'll do, but
you never know. Dana White's like, nope, title shot.
So
Stipe Jones.
So with John Jones leaving the light heavyweight division, 205s, he's now moved on. He's relinquished that title. You got Ryan Bader stepping in saying, okay, I'm the best 205 fighter in all of MMA currently right now since Jones is.
Well, Bader's in Bellator.
but I understand, and there's a lot of fighters that go back and forth, but and there's fighters that are looking to was it Chandler looking to leave Bellator, maybe get a chance in the UFC, and people saying he has a really good shot at that.
Bader already lost. You know, I'm a Bader fan. He's a badass dude, but he already lost his job in the UFC. You know what I mean?
I'm not saying to match him up, but if you're going to start comparing fighters and who they fought and over their career, who's the better fighter? And Bader fights tonight. He's fighting for the. He has his belt on the line with Bellator.
I want to watch that, man. I'm a Ryan Bader fan. Will he come over to the UFC and beat John Jones at 205? No, I don't think so. I don't know. I don't think so though.
John Jones moves up to heavyweight, loses his first fight. Then he's going to leave and go over to Bellator and be able to fight at 205 against Bader. I'd like to see that one happen. Your other
depends on what the money's like for him.
Yep.
You know, is he making money? We don't know. Does he got money? I don't know. You know, it seems like he's made a lot of money, but he could be broke by now. You never know. These guys blow through it really quick.
Yep. So prelims tonight for Bellator. I don't know where you watch that. I mean, main events usually on.
It's been on television lately, man. I think I saw it on the Paramount channel.
On television, but the prelims, I don't know where to watch those. But Lucas Brennan is.
Oh yeah, my guy Lucas. Man, I'm a big fan of the Lucas. You know, I mean the Brennan brothers. You know, I worked for Next Generation and Chris Brennan and Zach Brennan, so I was around Lucas Brennan and, you know, their younger brother, Tyler Brennan, when they were still in middle school and high school. So I've seen these guys progress from white belts, you know, yellow, I don't know all the jiu-jitsu belts, but I've seen them progress up through the ranks. And I've seen Lucas Brennan grow into this, from this skinny, you know, gym rat on the, you know, in the mat to this full out professional MMA fighter who is also an extremely talented jiu-jitsu player. And his stand-up hands are looking pretty good too. So
yep.
I'm pulling for him. You know, I sent him a little shout out at the weigh-ins. You know, I watched the weigh-ins yesterday. He was one of the first up on the scale. He looked fantastic. Good genetics, good genes, good family. So a big fan of the, you know, the Brennans over there and Chris Brennan and Lucas and those guys. So yeah, I'm pulling for him.
He's 2-0 in his professional MMA career, and both wins are by rear naked choke. So you obviously know that's where he's going to want to take that fight tonight. Get down there and choke him out.
I can remember Lucas and Tyler when they were younger. I think both in high school, they would get into it in the gym, a little brotherly brother on brother scraps in the gym, man. And they would go to town, and then, you know, Dad would show up and straighten them out. And, you know, those were good times back in the days. So
it's very cool to see them as young men now, knowing we're watching them as boys growing into all that.
Yeah. Next Generation, man. Frisco, Texas. That's, you know, it's a badass location. So go check those guys out. So what do you think about Bader? I don't know who this guy Bader is fighting.
I moved off of that already. I'm jumping ship.
Well, go ahead. Let's jump ship.
I'm starting to look at Saturday night's fight. You get Pedro Nunez against Frankie Edgar. Edgar is dropping down from 145 to 135. So this is his first fight at 135. So will he have more power, more strength to go in there? It'll be interesting to see how he can handle that. But I still think that, in my opinion, and I wouldn't put money on my opinion, Nunez is going to walk away with the second round TKO. But I haven't been very good on my picks. Not as good as you, Joe. I think I owe you a few.
I think we're even. I think we're pretty even. Let's see. I'm looking at this card. There's a lot of guys that I don't know who they are. Let's see. So I got to move up. Even the women's flyweight, Maria Akabova.
She is a
Shayna Dobson, right? I know who Shayna Dobson is.
And Shayna Dobson is a huge underdog. I mean, like by 500. So,
oh man,
it wouldn't. If you're placed to bet, you throw $20 on her to win. She's 3-4, but it's only $20, and if she's a 500 point underdog, there's going to be a huge turnaround for you.
Money, money, money.
So that would be an interesting one to put money on, but just for the fact that she is such a huge underdog. But I don't really think she has. She's 3-4 going against someone that's 9-1, and I don't know if that was a short notice call in or not, or how they hooked up with that.
Hey man, somebody made some money on that Sugar Sean O'Malley fight though. Didn't one guy bet like 40 G's on Vera?
Yes, I think that they did show up on the TV Saturday night. I'm like, wow, let's say.
Well, the fighting community, real fighters thought that's how it was going to go. It was the fans that didn't know.
That's true, because I'm pretty sure that Ocho had the right call on that one as well.
Yeah, Ocho knew. He's like, oh yeah, he's going to beat. We'll see. And what about coming to Alonzo Minifield versus Ovince St. Preux? Oh man, what a matchup! For one, Alonzo's coming off a loss. It wasn't a terrible loss. It just kind of looked like he got a little winded and got held against the cage a lot and took light damage. Didn't really get beat up, And a matter of fact, the first round or two, Minifield was beating the other guy back, beating the other guy up pretty good. And I can't remember his name. See if it shows it to me here. Devin Clark. That was back in June, so he loses to Devin Clark.
I'm thinking but
Alonzo.
That was just June, so.
Yeah, quick turnaround. Can you improve on your game that quickly to go and fight, a guy like Ovince St. Preux? And St. Preux, man, he's one of those fighters who's just super athletic. His kickboxing looks terrible. His punching looks terrible. He's got some pretty decent ground, but St. Preux just looks awkward as hell when he throws these big, wide kicks with his hands down. Not very technical, accurate shots. He's just powerful. It doesn't matter where he hits you. And it doesn't seem like he's improved on his striking. He looks like the same fighter as when he started. And, he's known for that submission. He's got those two chokes over, what are those chokes called?
The flu choke?
The Van Fluke, and some type of Van Fluke choke or something So he's got a couple of those too.
Choke. That was in his last fight. His last victory, because he's been back and forth with wins and losses. But he is the underdog going into that. He's 37 years old, so he, like you said, he's been around a while and hasn't changed his style that much to where I think that's where people are starting to understand him and know what he's going to be doing. So.
Well, he just lost. It says he just lost May 13th, 2020. He lost to Ben Rothwell. A split decision to Ben Rothwell. And Ben Rothwell, he's a pretty good, solid fighter. He's a big guy. He's a big dude for that weight class, especially. What are they fighting at? 205? Or heavyweights?
205.
205? Yep. So Ben Rothwell is huge at 205. So he's just kind of muscling around St. Preux. I always pull for St. Preux because I'm a fan of his, just because he's so scrappy. And then he has a win over Michael Ola something check by a choke. And then he has a lot. He had 2 losses before that. So he's only had 1 win from 2018 to 2020.
So
one win.
That's why Minifield is the favorite coming in at 9-1. Younger, stronger, more powerful.
And you know what? Minifield's teaching over at Rockstar with us.
Oh, he is?
Yeah, he teaches over there Saturdays. Haven't been up there to talk to him, but yeah, he's up there. When he's got a chance, he'll come in and sub and help out with classes, and everybody loves him. What a nice guy! Alonzo Minifield is a super nice guy, very soft spoken, but he will knock you out. So we're pulling for Fortis MMA's Alonzo Minifield. Once he gets his game completely developed, because he's still a young fighter. Once he gets fully developed, man, that's a guy to look out for. He's got the KO power. He's got the strength, the stamina, a smart, intelligent fighter, and I think he would make a good champion one day. So let's see how he does tomorrow night against a very seasoned Ovince St. Preux, who has fought the who's who of the MMA. I mean, he's fought Corey Anderson, he's fought Okami, Lima, Jimmy Manawa, he's fought John Jones, Glover Teixeira, Shogun Rua. I mean, he has fought the who's who, and he beat Shogun Rua, knocked him out, KO punch. I mean, Shogun Rua's a badass dude. So he's fought the who's who. So this is going to be a big test for Alonzo Minifield. He's going to have to come in shape, because St. Preux is not going to get tired. I don't care how old he is. He's only 37. That's not that old. Yeah. And he's pretty smart in the cage. He knows how to conserve energy. So we've got to see the best Minifield that we've seen. He's got to be better than that last fight in June. And he's got to come out there in shape and pull the trigger when he has to, because we're all pulling for him down here in Dallas.
That is
I see
true.
Ron Gallagher's chatting something. I can't read it; it's so small. But we see you there, Ron. So we're pulling for Minifield Saturday night. I think he gets the victory. What do you think? 3 rounds? 5 rounds? What is it? 5 rounds? 3 rounds?
3 rounds.
3 rounds. I think he can beat up Ovince St. Preux in 3 rounds.
I think he'll take him out before that.
You think he's going to knock him out? TKO?
Yep.
Ooh, that'd be good to see.
I think so. Yeah, I'm not that familiar with a lot of these other fighters on the card, but they always seem to put on good their matchmakers do well, because they can put on some great fights every weekend.
Oh man, the fight nights are always better. It's the young, up and coming, hungry fighters that are wanting to blast each other. A lot of times they're better than the pay-per-views. In the pay-per-views, you get a lot of big names, but sometimes the fights don't live up to the hype. Sometimes, and it's usually the undercard guys who steal the show, or the fight night guys that steal the show, and get the bonuses. And you go back and watch highlight reels, and sometimes the pay-per-views. Sometimes the big names matchups, they're just not that exciting with fights. Or maybe we just seen them fight too many times.
And that could be. They still sold 500,000. They had 500,000 buys on last week's fight.
500,000 buys. That's pretty good. I know you bought it 3 times.
I need my IT person here every step of the way.
Well,
my problem is it's called ID10T.
What's that?
Well, write that down and look at it. Then you'll know what it is.
What'd you say? ID10T?
Yep. But that's been my issue for the last couple of years.
I agree with you. You should get that tattooed on you.
That would be funny. But not across the forehead, Joe.
What about the main event, Frankie Edgar? So I don't know, man. I think Frankie Edgar is another one of those fighters. He's had a lot of fights in the UFC. He's a lot of wars, a lot of wars. Coming off 2 losses in a row. He lost to Max Holloway, which is Max Holloway. I mean, that's a champ. 5 rounds with Max Holloway. lost the unanimous decision in 2019. Then he fights Chan Sung Jung in December 2019 and loses from KO TKO. And then Frankie Edgar, didn't he just lose again not too long ago?
No, I think that was his last fight. He's had
it's been a year already, July 27th since Frankie Edgar fought last. No, December 2019, he fought Chan Sung Jung and lost to TKO punches. And that's all it shows. So I guess he's fighting Saturday night, August 22nd. Let's see how he does. He's talented, but I know he's coming off a loss. So,
but yeah, he lost, but he's dropped down a weight division. So what do you think? You think that's going to help him out?
I don't know, man. As you get older, you usually don't get lighter, and it's harder to cut weight. It's harder for me to cut weight. It's harder for you to cut weight. When you get older, man, you're putting on more muscle and getting lighter. Maybe he's counting on the guy's not hitting as hard. Will he have the speed to compete? So he's moving down to 135. Is that what it is?
Yes, that's correct.
So he was currently 145. When you get older, the first thing you lose is your speed. So is he going to be fast enough for these 135-pound guys that are, fairly younger? And, the age difference is only 5 years, but 5 years in fighting is a long time. Let's see, 81, 86, yeah, a little bit older. Frankie Edgar is 22-8-1, and is it Munoz?
Pedro, yeah.
Pedro is 18-4-0. One no contest. So it's gonna be a good matchup. I'm pulling for Frankie Edgar. I'm a Frankie. He's always a scrapper. So let's see how that fight goes. What do you think?
I think it's gonna be an entertaining fight, and I think Edgar will do all right dropping down. But for a lot of those reasons that you mentioned, I'm going with Pedro to come away with a victory on this one. I think he's going to have a little bit too much speed for him.
The young Punisher is just going to go in there and just start piecing up Frankie Edgar. We'll see.
He's going to he's going to get him down on the mat, and he's going to throw on one of his I was going to say
ground and pound
out of it, but I mean not a decision. I was going to say a submission. Before it goes to the judges.
So you think Pedro's going to win it?
Yes, I do.
All right. See, I don't know anything about Pedro. I have to look up his highlights, or because there's so many guys now. Man, the international UFC scene has gotten huge. There's guys from all over the world coming now. That guys' names you can't pronounce, and guys you've never heard of. Man, they come in. Some of those guys are destroyers. They're badass dudes.
Pedro's coming off a loss to Aljamain Sterling, but before that, his last victory before that was against Cody Garbrandt.
He beat Cody Garbrandt?
Yes, he did. In round one.
Wow. So I remember that then. I know who you're talking about now. I'm looking him up. Could be a short night. We'll see. We'll see if Frankie Edgar comes in. Edgar's probably thinking he's going to come in, rehydrate, be bigger. But it doesn't always work that way. We'll see how that 135-pound weight class, because he already looks shredded at 145. How's he going to look at 135?
It will be another good night of fights.
Whoop whoop. And those are free, no pay-per-view, UFC Plus.
That is true.
Or ESPN Plus.
I believe it's going to be. I believe it's on ESPN. The prelims are on ESPN Plus.
Just regular old ESPN.
I believe so. They've been doing a lot where if it's on ESPN, you can still get it on Plus. Because I know there's a lot of people which is screwy.
Don't have both of them.
They pay for Plus, but they don't have a cable service, so they can't get the ESPN. So I think they've stepped up a little bit where they're trying to do it on both platforms.
Well, all right. Well, good. We're going to be watching. Me laying on the couch, drinking cold beer, ordering pizza, or maybe some buffalo wings, and we'll watch that fight. So we'll have more to talk about. And man, did you see the interview with Jeff Hands and Steel Neal a couple of days ago, talking about
Yeah,
his? So prayers out to Jeff Neal. Man, get well, buddy. We're looking forward to that fight with you.
They got it figured out, and he is getting better. But continued prayers for him to that full recovery.
Yeah, we know him from the DFW area and fighting out of Forest MMA, and we've been to several of his live fights. Man, a humble guy, nice guy, hard worker, and just has champion written all over him. When that guy walks in the room, you're amongst a great ass fighter. And I do believe that he gets healthy, keeps improving on his game, he can take that belt. He can be the world champion. He's 170, correct? It's 170? Yeah, 170, and he said it himself. He thinks he takes the belt away from Kamaru Usman. And I don't know if it's not going to be this year, but let Kamaru Usman get another fight in, and then Jeff Neal gets another victory in, and then make that matchup. If Kamaru Usman is still champion in 2021, Jeff Hands and Steel Neal for a title shot 2021 is what I see. I don't want to see him go too fast.
Yep.
I don't want to see him rush it too fast because there's still a little bit of holes in his game that he's got to work on. And the thing about Jeff Neal is,
especially coming off something where he spent almost a week in ICU. So
yeah, and that messes with your head. It messes with your body. And I know, Jeff Neal is just an acquaintance to me, but I know he's like a brother to all the Forest MMA guys. But every conversation and engagement, every time we have him on the show with us, just a great dude. So looking forward to that comeback, man. Get healthy. Don't rush it. Don't rush back into it. Get healthy, get in the gym, work your way back up, and I think 2021 is going to be his year where he's going up for that strap. This is what I think. My prediction. Joe Show prediction.
Everybody's hoping 2021 is going to be their year.
No shit, right? Hey, man, my 2020 ain't that bad. Everybody's complaining, COVID this and that. But, man, to be honest, man, I've had actually a pretty good year. So
that's good to hear, Joe Show.
Mm-hmm.
Good to hear.
So, yeah.
All right, everybody. Thanks for tuning in to us.
Fight Fit Lifestyle out. Tune into that fight tomorrow night. Support your local dude, Alonzo Minifield, and the other rest of the UFC guys that you're cheering for. ESPN. Thank all our show sponsors. Fight Fit Lifestyle Radio out.
See ya.